totally different style, and especially a team like G2 that we have yet to see get onto the game. They definitely could have some tricks up their sleeves, some aces up their sleeves, as it were, but we are into the draft. What are we expecting coming out from the bans? Is it just going to be Kestrel, Koshka, as we keep on saying? No, is the answer. Glaive is the first ban.
Yeah, with it being Vanes or Suijay in the jungle, the Koshka I don't think is anywhere near as prevalent for, I mean, even if, you know, regardless, Immortals is just not a team that focused the Koshka very frequently anyway. Vox is going to be the ban. That one's also very interesting. But Lyra then will be first picked.
Yeah, so Lyra first pick, not surprising. But the Vox first ban, that surprises me because I don't think we've seen a Vox first pick this tournament.
Yeah, we haven't seen a Vox first pick, but Hundor is one of his top picked heroes. But there's the Koshka coming out from Immortals. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be picking this up.
Very interesting. Again, it was a pick that they didn't even really focus in the regular season. They were one of the teams that didn't play it that often in North America. Grumpjaw will be that ban. So Immortals focusing away that utility jungler with the help of G2 Esports in that Glaive ban.
Yeah, and the Adagio ban coming on through from G2. Unsurprising one, since they've got the Lyra, and obviously Immortals get the next pick. No healers to go alongside the Koshka.
No, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Ring. Oh, there goes the Gwen. Actually synergizes really well with the Koshka. There's got an early game damage, and once that Gwen picks up that tension bow, synergizes so well with the boomstick, as we've said so many times. With the Koshka, the early game coming out from Immortals is very strong this time.
So Immortals off to a great start in terms of their early game, and that's kind of what we're expecting from these NA teams, right? Having seen their games yesterday, Bacon, how do you expect Immortals to try and finish out this composition?
Well, they've already got a lot of burst. Yesterday, that was what they won. The final game with was just a ton of burst, picking one target, deleting them from the fold. I expect that to be a similar idea here, which is why I'm kind of surprised that the Ringo is the selection, because Ringo is incredibly susceptible to getting just burst down and deleted. I would have expected to see some...
We got it. The alpha comes on through. Honestly, I brought that up. I wasn't 100% sure, but it is going to happen. So we are going to see the alpha coming on in. It is going to be the pickup. And I mean, you've got a Gwen to jump on. There's a Koshka. Both of them very squishy. It could work.
It could work, definitely. I would like to see an Arden actually come in terms of Vanguard, the mobility, and actually with the slow as well.
The board on the alpha on the screen there. Obviously, as we were saying, has not been picked or banned thus far till this point. So we'll see. Is it going to be 100% win rate or a 0% win rate?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But Fortress, the final lock-in now. I'm sure the casters are itching to get into this game. I'm sure the viewers at home are itching to get into this game. I am too. So very quickly, I'm going to ask for predictions. Jinyu, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go for G2. I feel like I have to. I believe in Europe.
Okay, Europe's last hope.
I want North America to win, but I do think G2 is a better team.
Okay, so we have a united desk going for G2 on this, and we'll see if our casters agree. Let's pass it over to Fuji and AJ.
Thank you very much, guys. Man, yesterday, Fuji, we cast Immortals, their game, their upset. It was incredible stuff. Now we get to cast them again heading into day 2, this time up against the top seed from Europe. This is a very telling matchup for the strengths of these regions. If G2 can't beat Immortals, that speaks volumes. But same, if Immortals can actually take down G2 here, what a massive upset for them.
Well, I know that's what Immortals is looking to do. I mean, for Immortals, they don't really have anything to lose being the 6th seed versus the 1 seed, that the expectations are always going to be on that top seed. But they were pretty on fire yesterday. It was a tough matchup coming against G2 today, a clash of regions. This Koshka is going to really have to perform.
All right, guys, we're on to the Halcyon Fold for game number 1 of our series. I cannot wait to get this one kicked off. Fuji, I think straight off the bat, we got to start talking about some of these players here. Big for me, the matchup that we talked about on the analyst desk, Dienzio, Hundor. We know Immortals has this live buff. When they show up to an event, they tend to just turn it up a notch. But G2, we have not seen Hundor on the live stage. Is he going to be able to compete with that from Immortals?
That's a big question, AJ. We don't really know. A lot of times Hundor is on these scaling picks. He's on picks that like to play more towards the mid, more towards the late game. But he's going head-to-head against Dienzio with this Ringo and the Gwen. So it's actually quite a lot of early aggression coming out of G2. Perhaps not completely expected, but I do like to see this alpha. I want to see what they can do with it. It is a signature pick for them.
It's really going to be about how the focus goes in these early game fights, I think, because if Immortals make the mistake of focusing too heavily on Dark Potato early, the extra life gives a lot of time for Hunter to deal damage. So there's definitely a way for G2 Esports to take strong fights early on. For now, at least, they are playing very safely, though. In fact, all backing together at only 1.5 minutes in just to buy items, just to make sure they're not going to get caught out.
Yeah, I think it's very important for them to make sure that they do purchase as frequently as possible. Whenever you're up against the Fortress and Koshka in the jungle, you cannot trade with them. Even if you're alpha, you still don't have quite enough defense and offense to be able to take them down this early. I like the fact that they're going to go back. We'll have to see if they keep it a trend, though. Once they get a little bit more farm in their pockets, do they continue to go back before that 4-minute mark and just make sure they have a little bit of an item advantage against this early aggression?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when you have to go back to get that item advantage rather past 4 minutes, obviously Immortals can just go to the jungle shop. So I feel like this is only something G2 is going to be doing for a little while. I do like it, though. It does mean that if this gank comes out, you're a bit tankier, perhaps. You can see Hundor's already picked up armor. Very safe play, although he is getting jumped on. That's so much damage. Hundor, he's just barely going to be going down. Immortals pick up first blood, but Dark Potato wants to do something about this one. He's looking for Vanes. Vanes, he nearly falls. Keanu wants him so badly. Principal Arcanum takes him down. Dark Potato, is he going to be able to reboot? It's so close. He gets out of there. 1-for-1 trade. G2 and Immortals off to an even footing.
That was so important that Hundor, even though he went down, was able to create that much distance because Koshka took a couple of turret shots, allowing Alpha to come up and get a kill. You don't want Alpha to be able to pick up any kills. Even though it did go over to Keanu, that's really critical that they pick it up, but it's nice. They want to shut down this Koshka, and like we said, Immortals, they're not a team that's shown this pick throughout the season, so still a lot of questions on can they execute with it.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting one here. Also, we got to talk some more about this Alpha. You saw there, the fact that he had that second life was massive. He was against lots of early game damage out of Immortals, but it was enough for him to stay alive. He's already pretty close to having that reboot up again. It's an important thing to keep track of here for G2.
Yeah, I think it's also important to mention once again that Alpha into the Gwen and into the Fortress, probably going to survive, right? But into the Koshka, it's a very different story. So the reboot played a major factor there. But that Dragon Blood contract doing a ton of damage. Suijay actually picking up both Dragon Blood and Iron Guard this game. A nice way to get a lot of early game damage, but also have that sustain as we go in.
Oh, that was a nice bulwark coming out of Keanu. Did stop Vanes from jumping forward. I'm pretty sure Keanu dies there if the bulwark doesn't.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, that was really smart play. Really nice reactions from G2 Esports. It all rests on such a thin line here for them. They've got to be careful. Again, Keanu playing with fire here. Vanes, he wants those opportunities.
I want to see a little bit more. Okay, this is where we want to see steals start happening. Koshka needs to secure this. They can actually position themselves really well here for a fight.
Oh, Keanu, he needs to back away immediately. Vanes again blocked by the bulwark, though, and actually that lets Hundor and Dark Potato get a little bit of damage back down. I like the fact, Immortals, they know that it is kind of difficult to make these plays happen so long as Keanu's on point with those. So they're going and they're stealing some farm, right? They're making sure that they're still getting something by virtue of their early game.
Absolutely. I mean, when Koshka goes in, it's not always about the kills. Yes, it feels real good, man, if you can pick the kill up, if you can put the extra money in your pocket, but it also feels good to grab the Treant, to grab any kind of front jungle you can, because level advantages are highly valuable. Once Koshka hits level 6, the Yummy Catnip Frenzy comes online right now. You can see it, just upgraded. They can look to make a major play. Aftershock also completed. This is a massive power spike for Immortals. They're going to be looking for a pick here. Even though Fortress is only level 4 and Zio's level 4, locking someone down means certain death.
And look at this as well. Hundor is sitting on 1,200 gold. He cannot safely go down to the jungle shop. He does not want to concede lane farm. There is a huge differential in the items across the board here, as well as what you were just talking about. So it's a bad time for G2 Esports to try and fight at all. They have to just stay by their turret and play save up. Oh, bright bulwark, Keanu Nakoa. This guy's on fire today.
That's 3 for 0 on these Pouncy. Like, we see the whole thing with the Sorrow Blade online with the Aftershock. They're still going to look for it, though.
They are. Hundor going to be the target this time. So low, but the heal just barely saving him. Keanu Nakoa is an absolute monster. Dark Potato not going to land that prime directive, though, so no turnaround kill for G2 Esports. This has got to be kind of demoralizing as Immortals, right? Like, every attempt seems so solid, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah, each team right now is kind of trading a little bit of skill misplay. If Dark Potato lands that prime directive, it's a kill, right? If they actually get the Pouncy Fun, if they're able to get to the target, it's a kill. But each team team is trading and outplaying each other just enough so they don't get far behind in this early game.
And that wasn't even just the Pouncy fun that Keanu blocked. I mean, he blocked the Yummy Cat and Frenzy from over the wall with almost no vision. You got to have crazy reactions to make that play happen. Now we're starting to see G2 Esports pick up some steam. We've got that Sorrow Blade onto Hundor. Once Keanu actually gets a few more defensive items, I think is going to be a big moment as well, because on the front line, Immortals do have the option to blow someone up. But if Keanu gets tanky, along with Dark Potato having that reboot, that's massive.
It is very massive. I mean, the Aftershock will fortunately help Yummy Cat and Frenzy come off cooldown much quicker, so that's a positive thing here for Koshka. Vane's actually building a very aggressive offensive build here, looking to go straight into BM probably after this Aftershock. So interesting to see if he prioritizes any more defense, but Dark Potato feeling pretty good about this early game. He didn't get invaded too much, didn't lose too much farm. He's on the same level experience with Koshka. So you can see Immortals, they have the Fortress in Koshka, but they don't quite have the early game aggression potential. It is going to net him a gold mine, though, so this is something positive. We'll see what G2 does in response.
They might just try and quickly take a turret, but the rotation here from Immortals is pretty fast. There's the bulwark. This might have been a little bit too early. Vanes does not yet have his boots active, though, as Dark Potato turns around, trying to make something happen, pops his ultimate. Hundor, he wants Vanes. Suijay also pretty low, but Dienzio is going to be able to pick up the kill onto Dark Potato with no turnaround.
Fire Brew?
He's not yet. That does do some good damage here. Vanes, if he can quickly burst down this tree and get the heal, that is
He's got a life steal, it's not enough!
That's so close! Meanwhile, up in the lane, G2 finds another kill. Dienzio sticks around way too long. That backfired. That backfired hugely for Immortals.
Yeah, both teams actually overstayed, and this means that Ringo and Lyra are going to be able to snag this first turret. They're going to use the fountain to make sure they stay alive. Suijay can't get any kills. G2 made a big mistake turning back into that Fortress engage. Dark Potato goes down, but like once you take the kill, you bit off a little more than you can chew. You have to back up, be okay with the low-hanging fruit. They just overstayed a little too much.
All right, so G2 Esports, although they definitely have the weaker early game here compared to the composition out of Immortals, they are really managing to stand up, fight back, find some kills. We're now at 3 for 2, but there's a gold lead actually in favor of G2 Esports here. So, with that turret down, where does Immortals need to move on the map to make plays happen before it's too late?
Well, they need to move away from G2 right now to start with because they're split up. Vanes could look for a flank here, but it's very dangerous because of Bulwark and Alpha being able to single out Koshka, so they have to be very careful. The distance to safety for G2 is very close. They still have their first turret up. Immortals right now, they just need to hit those next item power spikes and fight around this Fortress ultimate. Attack of the Pack coming out will level the playing field a bit with all of those percentage health chunks. Immortals could look to contest here if they feel like they can pick an infusion up or at least very much push into the jungle. We'll see what they call. Right now it looks like they're just playing a little hesitant, still looking for those item pickups. Dienzio working towards the breaking point. Tornado Trigger already finished for Hundor though, so the power spike now kind of going back over to G2.
All right, Hundor does have some good damage here, but here comes the attack of the Pack. Vanes on the front line gets stopped by the Bright Bulwark again. Hundor eating a little bit from Dienzio as well. Prime Directive back in. Immortals, they got to be careful here as G2 goes for the fight. Re-engage. Vanes first to fall. Dienzio, he's on the back line. He knows he just needs to turn this around, try and make something happen, but Hundor finds him. He's going to get Suijay too. Double kill coming out. It's the ace for G2 Esports. They're on fire right now.
Keanu actually blocked the Truth of the Tooth active so they could not get on top of the enemy team. They kept Fortress from being able to leap forward. They're fighting around Sentry. Why? Why? You have Alpha with second life. Yummy Cat and Frenzy cannot be used on her. You have to lock this Ringo down. Ringo must be your target. You talked about this earlier, Jackson. Alpha could be that distraction, could be the thing to kind of cause Immortals to get a little bit too off focus, and that's exactly what G2 did in that team fight.
And this is one of the biggest problems with trying to play into a Lyra as this dive comp. If your initial dive does not work, what do? You have to just back away and totally reset, wait for cooldowns, because the heal is going to allow G2 to just deal with that, get back into a healthy position, and start to contest you. Vanes went in, did a chunk of damage, admittedly, but then he got Bright Bulwark and he couldn't follow. That was the time Immortals needed to leave.
a little bit of we have to ask, though, a little bit towards Immortals' shot call there. They didn't see the power spike, I don't think, from Hundor on this tornado trigger, so them pulling the trigger themselves was not the best idea, but here we go.
Speaking of trigger, that's going to be the trigger pulled on the Hellfire Brew. Dienzio taking a little bit low there. Another Bright Bulwark stopping the Pouncy fun. Vanes, I feel like, must just be getting so frustrated. He can't make anything stick here.
I mean, so many abilities are being blocked. I feel like right now Keanu has 100% block with every single bulwark that's gone out. He's blocked something, and this is going to actually force Fortress to go home and shop. They're going to be able to get the gold miner here. The map being opened up against an early game aggression comp is, Vanes goes in, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, not getting that one. Probably going to die as well. Not quite. Hundor wasn't in range to get those basic attacks down, didn't have the Achilles shot. Actually use that, I think, to try and secure the mine there. Suijay not going to be able to pick up the Treant either. G2 Esports starting to move up and really assert their dominance on the map.
Yeah, I have to still kind of question again this Koshka pick. Immortal is not really known for this. It's not a strength of theirs. They didn't play it with a lot of efficiency early game. It's coming back to bite them now towards this mid game. Just not getting the picks they need, not landing the ultimates on the right target. And when you lose first turret and you're losing jungle against your Gwen Fortress Koshka, you just lost the entire front part of the map in 12 minutes. This is not good for you.
No, it is not. G2 starting to move up in lane again. Immortals don't even think about contesting this one. I want to talk a bit more about Keanu Nakoa because I feel like Hundor, he gets so much of the attention on G2. It's deserved. You know, he's a fantastic player, but Keanu this game has been the difference between life and death more times than I can count. Suijay, he's actually thinking, Vanes comes in. That is a beautiful flank. Hundor goes down immediately. Vanes with a great play. He's looking for more as well. Likely going to find it as Dark Potato gets popped. That is going to be 2 quick kills for Immortals. If you're getting blocked by the Bright Bulwark every single fight, maybe you just go for a different play.
A flank is such an amazing strategy in Vainglory as a whole. If you're behind, if you're ahead, it doesn't matter. Putting the powerhouse on another side of the team fight where you're able to get directly onto your target is so important. As we can see here, they had no idea that Vanes was there. Bulwark was already used. All the damage coming out, the Dragon Blood contract still up. Just so much being put in onto that Ringo. They finally found their target, Jackson. They finally annihilated Ringo, and they were able to clean up Dark Potato right after.
This is a lesson I think anyone who's watching can really take home with them, even if Immortals loses here. If you have a composition that's like really good in the early game, doesn't mean you're out of it if you start to fall behind. You've just got to find those interesting ways of getting around the problem of, you know, your composition being outscaled. A good flank play like that is a great example. Right now, things are looking pretty even between the two teams after that play. Immortals really did bounce back there. Gold lead only about 2,000 now for G2 Esports. Immortals, what do they need to do here with that small win, with that team fight victory? Can they start to look for more plays? Do they get some vision?
Yeah, they certainly can. I think at this point, because you're kind of equalizing some of those item power spikes, you can move your vision up. You want the other team to kind of engage towards you. You can't afford to use Fortress's ultimate to go and actually dive underneath turret right now. They need more farm, and what you can see them doing here, stalling the wave out a little bit so it stacks up and pushes towards the enemy base. This gives them some time to do gold mine because you have to make a choice. Do you clear the wave? Do you contest the objective? G2 chooses to clear the wave, so that's a gold mine going to Immortals. Looking like they're cleaning up their play a little bit here. I like this, Jackson. And the thing about Keanu, when you make so many plays early game that give you the lead, the pressure is to continue making plays over and over and over again, and he has to.
And to be fair, if Vanes had been with his team in that last fight, sure, that Bright Bulwark would have been great, right? But, you know, I agree with you. It is a big pressure situation for Keanu. This guy, I mean, I was talking about him earlier on. Last year, he was on Rising Lotus for a while. You know, they didn't really make that big of an impact in the previous championships they attended in the online play. But now that he's made this transition, he just seems to really have stepped into the role of captaining his team, being the hero that his carries need. And when you've got a player like Hundor, that's so critical. Like, you need to do as much as you can to protect him.
They were actually just trying to set another flank up there, but the vision kept it from happening. Dienzio was pulling the Kraken to the right. They were hoping that they could put Vanes up in the top bush and have him drop once they contested the Kraken. It didn't happen. Cheeky little play coming from Immortals, trying to set up flank number 2 for a big team fight win, but I like it. Immortals is thinking not just pure aggression, they're thinking strategic aggression outside of the box, coming in from different angles because they see the effectiveness of this bright bulwark. It'll be interesting, though. Does G2 look for that portal engage and Atlas on the Enzio, or do they fight around the edges? Because otherwise, Lyra's going to have a hard time getting to the back line because of this Fortress and this Koshka on the front.
I really like that Hundor's starting to build a bit defensively. I think he can afford to. He's already doing enough damage, at least for now. Maybe later in the game you like sell one, get some more damage if you need to. But this could make the difference if Vanes does find a flank, or if the Bright Bulwark misses, he might be able to survive that initial burst of damage coming out of Immortals.
Yeah, and Ringo is one of the few carries that can afford to go for offensive if you have the right positioning, but we're going in.
Oh, here comes a fight. Bright Bulwark to buy some time. Vanes wants to go in. He's actually going to have to swap target to try and protect D'Enzio. You can see here Hundor very healthy, still getting jumped on. D'Enzio tries to make a play through the portal. Suijay, he wants him. Hundor, he's still alive. Ace comes through for G2 Esports. They make the fight happen. And with Kraken on the map, G2 can get a lot off the back of this.
There are 2 Atlases on G2 Esports right now. That came in so critical. Gwen was not getting that many auto attacks off. She was not stacking the breaking point, which allows her just to do so much more damage. And if you're going to go double offensive attack speed items, you really need to be getting those attacks off. You see the first Atlas goes down, attack slowed. It's just, there's no damage coming out. Vane's taking so much damage up front in that team fight. Fountain has to be used for him. Suijay not finding the kill here. That sigil, so important. If Ringo had not have survived, they would not be able to get the Kraken and push the turret as well.
Immortals maybe needed to just keep playing it more patiently, right? Like, they went all in, all aggressive, 3 people running into a choke point. That's the situation where the Bright Bulwark works so well, and we saw it do that again. Vanes didn't actually have anything blocked by it, but he couldn't continue. Like, he couldn't continue to run onto Hundor. He had to make a decision, all right, let's put the eggs in the D'Enzio basket this fight. Right now, though, here comes another flank attempt. They flare them out. Keanu pops down very early. Hundor, he's got to be super careful here. Slowed up. Suijay, Vanes, they jump on top of him. Hundor, he finds D'Enzio. Somehow, he's still alive. Fuji, he nearly gets Vanes too. Dark Potato, he's going to be chasing it. Swaps position with him. Beautiful by Vanes. But even though he makes the play, I don't know if it's going to be enough here. Portal is still up. That is another kill coming through for G2. 2 for 1. They've got Kraken. 1 turret left. This could be game, although D'Enzio is up pretty soon. It's going to be a close one. Do they want to risk it? Dark Potato does have the reboot.
They need to risk it. So much life on Kraken.
What was that directive coming in from Dark Potato? He's trying to do this. I think they've got it. Fuji Immortals just could not make it happen. G2 Esports take game number 1.
This is a prime example of Immortals trying to go more towards the aggressive compositions that they're not practiced on, not enough, trying to say, we're in A2. Koshka must just be natural to us, but it wasn't. They did not execute how they needed to. Some nice flanks, some nice potential comeback attempts, but G2 showing up really strong here in Game 1.
They looked great. Keanu Nakoa really showed up, I thought. Guys, let's hand it on over to our analysts, though, and see what they have to say about that first game of the series.
Well, Europe are off to a great start in that one, but statistically, they are the favourites coming in here. Let's not pretend like G2 shouldn't be in a good spot in this series. I mean, do you guys want to break that one down a little bit for me? What was it that really gave G2 such a great advantage early on?
Well, I think a lot of it was just the fact that they were able to deal with the burst that was trying to come out from Vanes and D'Enzio. And the Alpha being able to reboot prevented kills from going over multiple times. And then the play from Keanu Nakoa, I think, was absolutely stellar this game.
This is what I was about to bring up. We were saying how Hundor was the guy to watch, but honestly, Keanu Nakoa was stellar throughout that entire game.
He absolutely was. And I think part of the issue was Immortals, they were very predictable in the way they were aggressive. They've got a very aggressive early game composition. And the moment that Sweet Generous hit that level 6, had the attack of the pack ready, they had this very predictable movement. They would release the wolves, and all 3 of them would just run as a trio straight at them. And, you know, then Vanes would use his Pouncy Fund to try and get onto Hundor every single time. Keanu countered that, gave Hundor time to just get rid of the wolves, and they just completely flipped that around every single time. And I think that was part of the issue. We did see one moment where Immortals adjusted just a little bit to try and get the ace, but it just wasn't enough, to be honest.
Yeah, we did see that flank come in from Immortals. They did change their playstyle a little bit, but I feel like it was too little too late at that point. We do have a replay from the game, so we can break it down a little bit more. Bacon, do you want to take this one away?
Yeah, I mean, this was a fight that happened right at the very end. Look at the positioning of Hundor here. He's right in the thick of things, which normally is an atrocious idea, but he's able to get out just far enough, staying alive for a long time, despite getting hit by the Yummy Catnip Frenzy, and then it allowed Dark Potato and Keanu to close this one out, chasing down the Koshka. Thought it was maybe going to be a big mistake there not to get that second shot with the perk of Lyra, but still had the portals to go through and finish the game.
And that's the second time today where we've seen a fight where it's like, oh, this could go either way, but in the meantime, Kraken is over at the base just hammering away at the turrets.
And I think part of the issue as well is that Alpha going into all three members, so you've got Koshka, Fortress, both melee heroes, and Gwen's range on her basic attacks is quite fairly short anyway. So the moment she goes into all three, she gets the damage using her air effects with that crystal. It's dealing a lot. There is not much.
No. Well, the crowd, as you can hear, are happy to get on into draft. And it looks like Immortals feeling stressed a little bit by the faces that they're pulling, but Lyra going to be one of our first mans alongside Vox here.
Yeah, so Glaive going to come through as the first pick very quickly for Immortals. They're definitely going to be happy to have that hero.
I believe Suijay was playing that on their final game against Hammers yesterday and really stepped up to the plate.
It definitely makes more sense to me going for that Glaive. The early game composition, it completely did not suit their playstyle, but that Glaive fits so well in with Immortals.
Yeah, has a lot of power as well. You can see their on your screen 66% win rate here at the Unified Championship. And with the Finn pickup, this is one that we've only seen, I believe, once in the Unified Championship thus far, that 4% pick rate.
Yeah, we've seen it banned, though.
Yeah, we've seen it banned quite a bit. There was actually a couple teams where it was banned every single game.
Yeah.
Going to come through here for G2.
And importantly, those were EU games, right, where the Finn was going to get banned away. This is an EU team. We might actually see that kind of EU Finn come in and see why it's been kind of heavily prioritized. The Alpha respect ban coming out from Immortals.
I wouldn't be surprised to be seeing that Grumpjaw coming out because that Alpha has been denied. Grumpjaw, major priority pick so far in the past day. G2 definitely comfortable playing those tanky, peeling heroes with that Finn there. Works really well with the Grumpjaw. A little bit.
Also very good because Koshka hasn't been banned away, but you pick up the Grumpjaw here, suddenly Koshka doesn't feel so great.
Yeah, especially not with the Finn being there. I mean, Koshka can do well into Finn just because of the mobility, but you had Grumpjaw there. This is a combo I'm actually really looking forward to from G2. Grumpjaw spitting someone out into a Quibble stun can be really strong. Lance is going to be iffy here. One of the things that during the regular season, Suijay always said, Finn is really good against Lance because you can't crowd control him. There's going to be the Scarf, though, that Zio's been so good with.
Scarf makes complete sense. Finn, very slow. Grumpjaw, very in your face. It's easy to land your Spitfires onto them, get a goop and get the flames burning there. Makes complete sense. Positioning-wise, he's got a lot of peel with that Lance and with that Glaive there. Again, this is classic Immortals. Keep your carry safe here.
Absolutely, and Scarf is going to be that carry, and we'll see what the carry is going to be for the likes of G2. It's likely at this stage that the Grumpjaw goes to that jungle, so we're looking at what is going to be going into lane against that Scarf.
This could, I actually wouldn't be, no, this might be a contentious issue. I would actually quite like to see a Celeste coming out. No.
Ringo. Same as last game. I mean, Hundor plays a lot of Ringo, right?
He does.
Yeah, Hundor, Celeste is not exactly a Hundor pick.
I know, but
so
it would have been fun.
It would have been very fun, but...
I will say, I really feel like right now, with the amount of pressure on their shoulders,
that's
G2, the last thing they are worried about
when
is
you're trying
fun.
to be the first European team to win a series against
but
North American team, you're not really looking for fun.
All right. It's time to predict again. How do we feel this one's going to go down? Bacon, we'll start with you.
Very similar to last game. I think G2 is just a stronger team than Immortals right now.
I really like the draft coming out from G2, and I think mechanically still the better team. I'm going for them.
All right, sticking with G2 on this one. Europe's hopes held high. We'll pass it over to our casters to kick off Game 2.
Alrighty, G2 Esports got to be feeling good after that game number 1. Can they keep the ball rolling as we head into game number 2 here, Fuji? It's an exciting series so far. G2 Esports, as one of the European representatives here in this tournament, really want to pick up that first European series victory over North America.
I mean, Immortals wants to stop that from happening, right? Like, I mean, if Immortals can actually pick this series up, that's a huge win for them. It's because it's completely against expectations. So it's nice to see these guys really putting in the effort, really putting in all the try-hard opportunities they have. And I actually kind of like their draft Scarf on Dienzio. This is many times unanswerable for a lot of teams, and we'll have to see if G2 can adapt to a very different style of game.
Also, the Lance, very interesting out of Suijay. You heard Bacon talking about it. Typically not a pick that you see into those fins. Why do you think they decided to go for that?
I think it just has to do with the fact that they want to be able to protect Dienzio, and they feel like this is going to be maybe the best way to counter the Grumpjaw as well, aggression potential coming out. It's just one of these things where you have to be able to lock Grumpjaw down consistently, and Githyan Wall lets you do that, right? There's a lot of walls, there's a lot of team fighting going to happen in the jungle. I think if Immortals can make it that way, so there are a lot of places to knock anyone out of a empty stomach.
All right, well, G2 Esports and Immortals getting ready to head into this game number 2. We are quickly going to remake this lobby before we hop on into it. Let's have a bit of a discussion about some of these other picks coming through. I do think it's going to be interesting to see Keanu Nakoa's Finn here, right? Because last game, he had a very inhibitive playstyle, right? Like he was stopping the engagements that were coming through from Immortals with the Bright Bulwarks. This time around, Finn is very disruptive, and he's great at making engagement plays with those hooks. Can Keanu play as well in this kind of different captain role?
I definitely think he can. I mean, Finn is also much of a favorite for Keanu, and he's played him quite a lot in the past. So, in fact, he was in that clip we saw earlier that really secured a victory for them and gave them first seed. So I think he'll feel pretty confident coming into this game with the pick.
Yeah, very strong European pick there, the Finn. We are on to the Halcyon Fold for game number 2, Hammers versus Immortals. Immortals, they really need to turn things around here sooner than later. We know this is a team that gets a live buff when they get to these championships. Maybe it will pan out here and be enough to beat the seed difference. G2 Esports, though, very strong performance in that game number 1. What are we looking for in this early game, Fuji? Any early rotations we're expecting to see here?
I mean, I think we're going to basically be looking for Glaive to hit level 2, look for some pick opportunities on Ringo. They don't have a ton of ways to deal with the pick if it does come out, other than a counter gank themselves. So my eyes on G2 for being able to set up Grumpjaw in a place where he's actually able to come in and maybe do a little bit of a surprise gank from behind the rock underneath the first turret or something of that nature. If there's a Glaive, you have to expect ganks. That's just what he's built around in this early game, and it's going to allow Scarf to do some scaling.
I do think we're expecting to see Keanu Nakoa probably stick pretty heavily up towards this lane, try and protect Hundor. Hundor, of course, not having a lot of mobility on that Ringo, has to be extra specially wary of the Lance and the Glaive. That's so much crowd control that can just lock him down and take him out. Keanu, of course, great at protecting his teammates, as we saw in that previous game. Dark Potato doing the Grumpjaw thing of trying to take this Treant early. Will Suijay be able to contest here? He's certainly thinking about it. Might try and jump in a second. He knows roughly how much damage Dark Potato is doing, apparently, because he manages to hold that engage for a very long time. Dark Potato, he does find the Treant, and now he wants Suijay as well. Lots of damage coming through.
That's actually an incredibly huge win because he also forced Boots out from Suijay. So now the extra gank potential from early game is gone. The health, the regeneration over to Dark Potato.
All right, Vane's getting jumped on. Good slow coming out of Dark Potato and Hundor, but they can't quite get in range for Hundor to get too many basic attacks. G2 Esports, they're flexing a little bit here in this early game, even though they don't necessarily have the best early game comp with that Finn.
Suijay should have been able to have secured that. Glaive typically has the easier secure early game over the Grumpjaw, but if you do the Elder Dance, Jackson, and you lose, then you lose a lot of pressure on the map, and that's what we saw, them being able to go back up and push. Right now, it looks like perhaps Dienzio's looking to go shopping as they shove this lane in. You can tell there's a hard press here, so that's going to allow him to go back and pick some things up. But the timing for rotations in terms of Dark Potato getting back to the Elder is actually going to be ahead of Glaive, so I think he'll probably pick another one up here, another win for G2 in this early game.
Yeah, this is one of those more nuanced things that we don't see talked about as much, but Dienzio with the Lance there, they actually have a lot of AoE for the wave, so as soon as he wants to shop, he can, and G2 can't do anything about it. Like, they can't shove a wave very quickly with a Ringo, at least not until he gets some attack speed and some damage later on. That really does buy a lot of space for the very late game carry of Scarf to actually do things earlier in the match than you might expect.
Yeah, absolutely. And with some of the recent buffs to Scarf's damage, he can also auto-attack for more damage on the minions in the early game, so all around just a lot more shove potential. Suijay actually going in here for some counter jungle. I like this if he can secure it, but he doesn't get it again. again.
No way. Dark Potato picks it up. Sweejay's got an afterburn out of there. Dark Potato does have a dash available, but he doesn't want to commit to it. Even though, I mean, they knew Immortals was up in the lane. I'm surprised Dark Potato actually played that one so safely. Hundor's out of energy here, getting jumped on. Impale going to land. Great Githian wall too. Veins and Dienzio picking up first blood over G2.
Really, really good synergy there of all of those abilities coming together. Once you're on top of that goop, it's sticky stuff. You can't really get out of it, and once it's lit on fire, the burst damage is a lot all game long. It actually makes Scarf incredibly strong. But the game's going to probably reset here a little bit. Vane's going to need to back up just to make sure Dark Potato doesn't get any extra advantages. They're probably just going to try to hold this lane here for Ringo. Fortunately, while the death, not ideal, he doesn't lose too much farm in this trade.
G2 has great wave control. They know all the tricks to make sure they can get advantages there, or at very least get back into things if it's a bit rough. Hundor, I just got my screen pointed at by Fuji because something popped up we're a bit surprised by.
Little crystal power here on the Ringo. So a bit of a switch up here going into the first crystal power Ringo I believe we're seeing a whole tournament weekend long. So I was wondering during the draft if G2 would consider this, because I actually have the opinion that if this goes to late game, they don't really have a good win condition against this Scarf. So one of the things that CP Ringo brings to the late game is at least the ability to have a ton of Pierce and to potentially burst Scarf. And that's where Weapon Grump and Ringo come in. Because Ringo does not have any gap closing abilities, it's very difficult for him to get there with auto attacks. So that's something that perhaps this iteration for G2 might work out.
All right, G2 Esports are just playing it safe for the time being, though, especially now knowing that this is going to be the Crystal Ringo. I think we can expect to see not a lot of aggression from them early on. It is something which takes a while to ramp up. I like that he's going for the alternating current, though. That does smooth out your curve a little bit.
It does, but I'm still actually more of a fan of going into things like Shatterglass early, because Twirling Silver does take advantage of your alternating attacks once it's active, actually doing Crystal Power. The AC early doesn't give you that level 6 power spike like a Shatterglass would. So alternating current's definitely going to make them a bit weaker in any early game trades they get into. So if this passivity doesn't cost them any jungle, it might be okay. We'll have to see exactly what Dark Potato's goals are, though, because right now both teams, we're just kind of passive farming, trying to scale. The Scarf, it makes a lot of sense. G2, it's a little bit more risky not to shut the Scarf down.
It's really interesting, right? Immortals kind of playing that European style. You said last game, actually, you didn't like them playing super aggressive.
Yeah, I don't.
I guess they didn't either. They decided to back off that plan. G2, though, definitely playing a very European kind of matchup here. Europe, of course, definitely underdogs overall in this tournament. But G2 Esports, a big hope for them with that one-game lead up already over Immortals. In this game, the gold lead is dead even, 14.3 across the board. Really could be anyone's game as we move forwards here. I'm curious to see when our first big team fight is going to happen, Fuji.
Honestly, G2 wanted it to happen just then. We saw Dark Potato sitting in the bush. He does have his stuffed up and available, so this is normally, it's a power spike, but with the specific composition that G2 has, it's not as strong in the lane right now, not until we get a few more items. Now, with that being said, a nice ultimate coming out of Ringo, hitting a target, and then Grumpjaw devouring them. They're ticking for damage inside of the stomach. They can't get any defense protection. This is actually a pretty interesting combo. Once they pop out, they could get forced to court back in again. So there's a lot of combo potential. And when we talk about G2, that's what we think about, right?
Look at this power spike. You see Dark Potato picking up the infusion and Eve of Harvest on Hundor. They immediately rotate up to lane, start to think about looking for a fight. 2 items, 7.5 minutes in here for Hundor. That's pretty respectable scaling. He's got great farm, 92 right now. I actually think Immortals need to be very careful.
Yeah, this is not a place where you want to get caught.
Ooh.
Nice block there. Crucible does come out, so really important to block that. That meant everything for this moment.
No block now for Dark Potatoes stuffed, though, except for that one reflex block on Dienzio. That's going to be blocked by Hundor there as he actually gets popped. Now Dark Potato, he's got free reign. If he wants to go for that stuff, he can, but looks like G2 don't want to combo it out with anything here.
They're really, really afraid of... they just use Force the Cord in the Ringo ult, so using one ultimate at a time, trying to see if something works, right? And they don't want to go all in, because if they do lose a team fight here, that means first turret, that means a gold mine. That's a huge swing, 1,800 gold over to Immortals, and you do not want to give Scarf any early game leads at all. He just comes online so fast. But speaking of coming online, Broken Myth is now finished. This is a big power spike for Immortals in these team fights, and because of the way G2's comp works, you can't really keep from giving him stacks.
Yeah, it's not possible. I mean, you got two very slow frontliners. They kind of have to hard commit to a fight where Dienzio needs to miss his reflex block if they want to make that one happen. G2 right now doing a bit of a dance around the gold miner. Vanes does scout it out, so if Immortals wants to try and contest, they can. They are moving up, actually using the candy on the gold miner to shut this down.
I like putting the candy on there because it kind of forces some extra damage out. If you don't think you're in the right position to be able to take it, it's just a little bit of gold to keep the enemy team from getting a massive amount themselves. So really good play by them. Pushing the wave over technically allows Immortals now to get a good position on gold mine, to go shop, get some power spikes. No infusions coming out. Immortals not really looking for team fights just yet. Still, once again, the name of the game, get this Scarf to the late game.
And so far, doing that with ease. He's sitting quite nicely on 108 farm. Hundor does have the lead in farm, but Crystal Power Ringo doesn't really scale comparably to that Scarf.
Yeah, that's very true. Gold efficiency is different for every hero, so more gold in the Scarf is actually a more efficient hero for dealing damage towards your win condition. Obviously, Hundor still need those items, but look at the posturing we see here, Jackson. Both of these teams almost kind of daring each other to make the first move. Like, Glaive, are you going to go for the afterburn? Because I might just eat you, buddy. I might just swallow you inside. So Hundor still holding on to his ultimate as well, perhaps looking for that level 9.
This posturing is going to be so much better for G2 once they actually get overdrive on Quibble. Because that way, see, Keanu moved up towards the bush there and actually faced Vanes. If he has the option to Quibble stun Vanes, then you might burn a reflex or at least poke down Vanes so that afterwards you can make a real impact with going for that forced accord and being threatening in that way. So I think they need a bit more experience. I kind of like that maybe you would put Keanu without Dark Potato here. Oh, Vanes, he gets eaten! That is beautiful. Dark Potato doing the play, putting him under the turret. Vanes is no way out of this one. Surely he cannot escape. He actually mispositioned there. He, I think, accidentally tapped on the wrong side of the wall. They just let Vanes get away for free. Keanu on the front line goes down. What is happening, Fuji? G2 Esports falling apart in this exchange, making a few critical mistakes.
That was very strange from G2. I don't really understand what happened there because they actually got the Crucible out. It was missed, a complete mix-up. We had Forced Accord available. Just kill Vanes, kill Lance. He already took turret shots. He's going to keep turret aggro. It's going to continue to ramp up, but not pulling him back in or at least using that opportunity to burn more active items really hurts them.
Straight up, I think that was a mistap from Hundor. I think he wanted that kill, but he was right in the middle of the two exits, like around the corner of that wall. So when Vanes rolled over, it was hard for him to get around and actually pick up the kill.
Just ult him then. I mean, you've got a powerful ult in the Hellfire Brew. Like, it's okay to expend some resources because of how slow the game's playing. If you pick up a kill at this pace, that's pretty massive.
It is indeed. Keanu Nakoa, speaking of picking up a kill, is falling quite low. Forced Accord, though, comes out. Dienzio has to back away. Dark Potato finds the eat, actually onto Suijay this time. Keanu is very low, though. Suijay might just turn around, try to go for that kill. Fountains popped. That's the root coming in. Dragon's Breath. It is going to do so much damage. Dark Potato, he's going to go down. So is Keanu. Hundor does find that trade. It is 2 for 2. These fights are really strange, Fuji.
Vanes could have killed Hundor there if he stayed and traded with him. It is CP Ringo. Perhaps Vanes forgot about that for a second. An Impale, a Githian at a wall. If Vanes finds him, okay, he remembered.
Oh, man. Vanes, he finds Hundor.
He doesn't get the Treant,
the Treant goes to Hundor. That shuts that play down from Vanes.
Yeah, I like the fact that Vanes was like, you know what, I can actually go back in on this guy, let me look for the play. Perhaps that decision made a little earlier would have netted the kill, but, you know, these small things matter. Like, if you give that away, really impressive play around G2, a missed Crucible with the Forced Accord. These are things Immortals cannot afford to do. Vanes has got to block that stuff. Scarfult, we just got a taste. Just a taste. Scarf's only level 9. Once level 12 hits, I imagine Zeo will be looking to really max this out so he can do a ton of damage, but we'll have to see if G2 can really combo all of these abilities together that they've got.
This is my biggest concern, to be honest. If they don't blow up Dienzio with the Crystal Ringo, how do they actually get that kill effectively in the late game? And with a Crucible on Vaynes, with Dienzio having a reflex block, that could be hard to do. I almost feel like Dienzio is in a position where he can afford to go for the...
terrible rotation.
Yeah, they just give up the turret for free. Hundor is making his way back up. They've infused on the side of G2. Maybe they look for something. Vaynes is taking a lot of damage, but they're just going to let them back away here. Dark Potato wasn't quite close enough to go for this one. Hundor getting poked a little bit as well.
Force the cord.
Yeah, it's not going to connect. Yeah, this is a very... the composition from G2 is very reliant on their abilities not getting reflex blocked. So I think Dienzio should go for an Aegis and a reflex block this game.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to go for both, especially since they're going in.
Hundor, Sweetj, he walks all the way around. Good block from Hundor, though, to not get stunned up. Quibble is overdriven now with the Hellfire Brew coming out. Sweetj cannot get out of there. Dienzio still has plenty of energy. Could think about going in. Dark Potato wants him, though. That's going to be the eat. They actually go for Vaynes, and now Dienzio turns it around. Vaynes very low. That's the fountain popped a little late from Keanu. Can't actually save his teammate. Hundor, oh, the trade comes through. Hundor just barely makes it happen. Keanu is healthy enough that Vaynes cannot think about taking him down. These fights are back and forth. People keep dying and not being able to finish things off.
That was just a very kind of not clean setup there from Immortals. They got the first turret. They didn't want G2 to get the gold mine, but when Sweetj went in with the afterburn, it just wasn't on point. Why go try to punt Ringo back? That's not what you want. Who cares if Ringo gets close to you? You just want to protect Scarf and poke.
Keanu, this is a bad situation to be in. Polite Company does make him a bit tankier. Sweetj really wants this one, though. Keanu, he's so close to dying, but Vaynes is going to go down. You can't. Oh, man, the eat as well. Stuff from Dark Potato makes it happen. Sweetj gonna go down. That was a collapse of communication and strategy from Immortals. They could not afford to make that play.
That was a collapse of everything. They had no idea about the death timers. They weren't looking at the positions on the map, the potential for them to come back. These are not the level of plays you got to be better than this. If you do not get the kill on Finn, get out. The roll-in from Vaynes, Hundor was right there.
Oh, man.
That was basically high five territory for Hundor saying, thank you, man, for the free kill. Immortals, you got to clean this up. You don't want to... Kraken with a Finn and a Grumpjaw is going to be very hard to posture around. Yes, Scarf does a really good job at taking Kraken. Perhaps the best news here for Immortals is all their turrets are up.
We do have a bit of a fight developing here. Keanu bootsing forward, looking for something. With Kraken pushing, G2 does have an opportunity. Oh, it hits Dienzio. The reflex block was
Hellfire
late.
Brew?
He does now have an Aegis, though, to block that Hellfire Brew as well afterwards. Turret going to be the main focus for G2. Hundor does take that quite quickly with the alternating current and the attack speed boost, but G2 still have a very healthy Kraken to work with. What's Immortals going to do here? What is the play? When can they try and defend this one? Sweetj pops a reflex block, doesn't actually use it to dodge anything. Kraken is not being damaged at all. They have a Scarf, and they're not taking Kraken down. He's found 2 turrets already. G2, they might just push for 3 here. Keanu's the only one who's low. This is a bad situation for Immortals. They need to make it happen. Sweetj, he jumps forward, but Hundor is kiting beautifully. Nice Atlas, though. Does stop him from engaging fully. That's going to be the fountain, but here comes Dragon's Breath. Keanu, first to fall. Vaynes just barely surviving. Dark Potato actually eats Dienzio, but it's far too late to have an impact. Hundor needs to book it out of here. He wants to turn around and get some damage onto Sweetj. If the Impale here lands, you're right, Fuji. Hundor is not going to be able to get away. Good slow. Nice reflex block, but he just doesn't have the energy to work with. Hundor going down. It is an ace for Immortals. Kraken, though, pushed 3 turrets and got damage on a 4th.
It's not often in Vainglory that I would say it's okay to get ace, but if it means you get 3 turrets and almost 1 of the crystal turrets, that's certainly worth the team fight, just drawing it out. Immortals, where is your decision-making in this push? I just didn't see it. You guys didn't talk about whether you wanted to go for Kraken or the kills. I think it's partially because G2's comp it's kind of scary. We've got Stuffed, we've got Force to Core, we got Hellfire Brew, we've got Quibble. There's so many things to potentially block. Immortals is like perhaps overthinking the setup.
Let's be real though, I mean the big thing here is missing those blocks at the beginning of that last fight. Dienzio getting forced to court it in should never happen when he has a block and there's a Crucible on Veins.
Two Crucibles.
It locks him down.
Now, we got two Crucibles
yeah,
online.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something that I like to see. I think Immortals are doing a great job with multiple Crucibles. It allows you more team-wide blocks so you can help each other out, but they have to make sure they're effective uses, right? You don't want to accidentally bait out a Crucible for the wrong ability. If you can dodge the Force to Cord, that's great. If you can dodge the stuff, even better. But I actually curious why Dienzio built a Metal Jacket. I actually think he could have gone 4-item offensive, or he could have just gotten another reflex.
Oh, they're trying to make a trap here. Immortals, they do have a lot of damage down onto Keanu Nakoa already, and that's the boots pop. They really want this one. Hellfire Brew. It lands onto Dienzio. The burn damage is going to be huge here. He does find that Dragon's Breath. That heals him up so much. Hundor's on the back line. He's getting good damage down, but it might not be enough. Dark Potato, can he get out of here? Just barely. Hundor, he's knocked back towards the sentry. He blocks.
He's making the plays.
Impale. Hundor, this is why he was one of our players to watch. This guy is a monster.
How do you miss the block on Hellfire Brew? You have so much time, and he was even off to the side, so it came from an angle where you had a lot of vision. It wasn't like a surprise. It's so much of the damage from Hellfire Brew comes from the ticking damage after the initial impact. So that was really rough. If that had been blocked, they would have cleaned that fight up for G2 would not have stood his chance.
All right. Immortals, one problem that I'm seeing here is that they don't quite have enough damage in a lot of these fights. I think, you know, we've talked about the Metal Jacket. That's an interesting choice from Dienzio. But also Suijay, all he's got offensively right now is that one Sorrow Blade. Do we think we might see him pick up like a breaking point as we move forwards?
I definitely think he could. The biggest issue right now that we're seeing with the way these team fights are playing out is that Immortals really isn't getting a setup that they want. They don't feel like they're optimizing their positioning. They're either getting caught out, getting pulled, getting eaten, taking a Hellfire Brew. If they clean the setup up, they frontline for Scarf, let them get a few pokes, get the Broken Myth Stab stuff to like 3, 4, or 5 and ult, then their win condition is much stronger. But right now, just a little bit too messy. They're going to pull the Kraken, trying to really just get G2 to come away from that sentry so they feel safer fighting.
I like that they're trying to bait this, but with Suijay getting stunned, that is bad news for Immortals. They've really got to get off that Kraken. And now G2 can take prime position on the map. Suijay does not have time to back away here and actually go to base, heal up. Hundor's doing decent damage to the Kraken too. Immortals, this is a do-or-die situation. They cannot let another Kraken go the way of G2 Esports here. Vaines knows that he needs to make the play, moving forwards a little bit. Infusion popped onto Suijay. That's a Force to Cord. With that reflex block coming in, the Crucible. Actually, both Crucibles are down right now, so maybe Hundor could look for that Hellfire Brew.
Yeah, I don't know if G2 would recognize that. I mean, fortunately, Dienzio still has his Aegis available. Triple infusions out for Immortals. They're actually in a really strong point because G2 only has one. They can actually sit on the shop side of the map, keep G2 from being there, but I don't know, Suijay's actually back in the jungle farming, so actually this is a big mistake. You can't let them just drop and shop and buy more vision, buy more flares, potentially infuse. You need to posture forward. Suijay's still kind of feeling the burn from that mistake earlier, getting caught out. It actually cost them a little bit of time, a little bit of their position, so a little fallout from some misposition.
Yeah, it's really interesting watching these vision dances around the Kraken. Immortals starting to move up. Another block from Keanu Nakoa's Force to Cord there. This time it was Suijay using his Crucible. Still have the one on Veins, so Hundor's going to struggle to land those big ultimates.
Yeah, it seems like they probably talked about the fact that Suijay is going to take Force to Cord duty with this Crucible. Probably a good idea for him, and then Vaines is most likely going to be looking to block the Stuffed or perhaps a Quibble with his Crucible. And Dienzio always going to be the target of that Hellfire Brew, I imagine, unless it means a quick kill on this Glaive. So Teams again. Here we go.
Oh, it actually lands this time. Everyone pulled in. Dienzio sitting in the middle of everyone. Does get the Dragon's Breath off, though. Hundor really needs to kite out of this one. He's taking so much damage. We have not seen the Hellfire Brew do enough here. Hundor, he wants to kite Suijay, though. He's doing so much damage. The block is going to keep Suijay alive. Keanu picks up a kill onto Dienzio. But again, with no carries left alive for G2, they've just got to back out of here. Keanu might be able to get away from Vanes, but Vanes is actually doing respectable, if captain-y damage, onto Keanu Nakoa here. Impale as well. Vanes, one more attack might be enough. Polite Company's a stun. Keanu, can he get out of here?
Impale kills him.
Roll comes
He
out.
misses it.
He misses it. Vanes, he might go down. That's going to be force court missed. The scout trap popped. Captain battles are some of the most entertaining battles in all of Vainglory. But Vanes does get out of there.
Oh my goodness, if Vanes landed the Impale, that was an ace, so close. I mean, in this team fight, we actually see Dienzio has to use his ultimate incredibly early because otherwise he would completely die. He needs the Eve to heal him up here. Suijay doing such a great job on the backline separating Hundor, but the Quibble does take down Dienzio, and without Scarf alive, your ability to push turrets effectively just aren't there. But those support battles, like if the Force of Court landed, Vanes was dead. If Vanes landed the Impale, that was an ace. Most likely even a Kraken as well, or at least at the second tier 2 turrets. So a lot of trading going back and forth, and funnily enough, like we end up with oftentimes the captains being those key components at the end of the team fight, not even the carries.
So what is the straw that's going to break the camel's back here, Fuji? Like, what do these teams need to do to finally win a fight convincingly enough to leverage that and push forwards?
They need to make sure, once again, Immortals is in a much better position. They can't keep getting forced accorded into the team. That's causing a lot of issues. Ooh. Oh, nice block there. Looking for the sneaky one over the wall. Keanu, here we go.
Immortals, they want to make this play happen. Dienzio on the back line, not really getting the damage down, though, as Hundor kites Suijay. He does so much work there. Actually, going to be Dark Potato's duty to try and hunt down that kill. Hundor looks for Dienzio. Dienzio gets stunned up and taken down. Hundor gets the double kill. G2 Esports, with a very convincing fight win, are going to take them out and maybe go for a Kraken to push for the end here. Actually hunting down Vanes a little bit. That's interesting. I don't know if Ace is big enough for this to really be worth the time. Vanes is going to be quite far back, quite healthy, but he does get forced to court it in. Hundor should be able to hunt for the kill here.
Vanes has to get out. If he doesn't get out,
he can't do it. He misses the Impale.
They're going to get Kraken right now, and with the ace timer on 50-something seconds, Dark Potato didn't do too much damage to Kraken, so perhaps not as dangerous. But if this Kraken was basically at capture point when Vanes died, his death stagger might have just been long enough for them to finish the game cleanly.
Dark Potato wishing he had a Storm Crown there, but still G2 Esports picking up the Kraken. They did manage to get that ace. They're in a great position to take home game number 2. It's been a grueling one, Fuji, 25.5 minutes in, but that would mean that G2 Esports are one win away from being the first European team to take down a North American one in a series. That would be a massive point of pride for the region. Hellfire Brew coming across. Dienzio not actually going to waste the block because he knows he can just walk onto the Sanctuary, heal up. Hundor has quite a long cooldown on that, 43 seconds.
They get a turret.
They get a turret, which is good, because the big thing is if a turret dies near Kraken, that's a lot of effective health taken out. So, this does mean that they're very likely to be able to take out the second one just off the back of Kraken. G2 thinking about the fight, though. Dienzio moving forward, starting to burn down Dark Potato. Dark Potato finds stuff.
Going for the finish.
That is actually a great play, though, with Hundor making his way onto the base. He wants to end it right here, right now. Dienzio, he's trying to take down Hundor. Doesn't quite do enough damage. He finally kills him, but Kraken is still so healthy. G2 Esports, ladies and gentlemen, find game number 2 in the series.
This Immortals team coming in, we had a lot of hopes for them. They were on fire yesterday coming out of their series, taking an unexpected victory, but just a lot of mistakes today, and G2 sees every hole, and they're capitalizing on everything. G2 playing such a clean team fight game in those last 3 minutes.
That was a much better performance by Immortals, but they still need to ramp up more into game number 3 if they want to contest G2 right now. When you're playing against a European team, the late game is something they are known for, and G2 did play a relatively clean late game. In the fights where they traded very evenly. They didn't really allow Immortals to do anything after the back of those exchanges. But guys, we could only have one more game in the series if G2 takes it home. Let's get our thoughts from our analysts.
Thank you very much, guys. Another one in the bank there for G2. They are now 2-0 up in this series. Can EU actually have a dream and a hope and a prayer on this one? Can they actually move on into the semi-finals? It's looking likely at this stage.
It's looking very likely. I mean, it was likely from the get-go. I mean, again, let's not beat around the bush. This is a #1 seed versus a #6 seed at the end of the day. And G2, there'd be much more problems if G2 lost this series than if they win it.
Yeah, I think if G2 lose this series, it's kind of like a huge wake-up call for Europe, right? It's like where are we in the standings if we can't win a single game? But you can hear how happy the crowd are about G2's performance there. And just looking across the scoreboard, this one was all about Hundor, and there was a fight late on where you were just pointing out Hundor's positioning.
Yeah, it's the CP wrinkle. We do not see many CP wrinkles, and usually when we do, they don't work very well. But with this composition, when you have a Grumpjaw there and a Finn, you've got such heavy peel. It's all about keeping Hundor in the back line, allowing him to use that Hellfire Brew. And what we're seeing a lot of the time in the team fight. So this is the one that we were talking about, and
yeah.
Well,
so if we roll the replay, should be able to point out Hundor's position.
So he's actually separated himself. So all three members are going on to the other two members of G2. I'm pretty sure that's a big mistake, but it gives him such a good opening to go into DNZO and land that Hellfire Brew there. But unfortunately, it does leave DNZO in a really good position to get that.
At the same time, though, that's a Hellfire Brew that has no right connecting without getting blocked. They had full vision of Hundor there. It came from a long distance away. I mean, it feels like the live buff, maybe it did wear off because the draft was good for Immortals. Yeah. The positioning, for the most part, was good for Immortals. The mechanics were, honestly, you have to be honest, the mechanics were terrible this game. That was really bad block usage. Even though they had 3 reflex blocks for DNZO, there's no way that should have hit. It happened a couple times where they had some really good blocks, but the really bad blocks were what cost them that game.
All right, well, we are into the draft once again. Koshka and Lyra taken away, and Glaive locked in, taking that one away from the comfort pick of Immortals.
Well, we were talking about this before this game, is that Immortals, the thing about Immortals, and I think what makes them not as strong as G2 perhaps in this series, is that their hero pool is definitely not as wider. And I feel that in this tournament in particular, there's a lot of focus on the jungle and who the jungle is able to pick up. And by denying some of the hero pool away from Vains and Sui Generis, it puts them in a risky position in the draft, and it gives G2 Esports a little bit more of a leeway in controlling what they get and what Immortals get as well. So
locking in the Ardent on this one, are we likely to see a Grumpjaw ban then, going on that line of logic of removing the jungles away from the lineup of Immortals?
There's a good chance that Grumpjaw will be taken away. Both of these teams have been putting a lot of emphasis on the Grumpjaw, so whether it's Immortals or G2 that bans it away, I don't expect it to make it into the next round of picks.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you. I don't expect to see Grumpjaw at all. But then again, the last time we did see the Grumpjaw ban in this series, we did see the Alpha picking up and had a major impact. And I actually feel if G2 pick up the Alpha, that's going to be very, very detrimental there for Immortals. And it's going to struggle to see how they're going to counter that, maybe with a Lance.
Okay, we'll have to see what they are going to opt for in the end. The Grumpjaw does get banned away, but a lot of bonus time already used there by Immortals, really considering their options and building up not just the next couple of picks, but an entire pick and ban strategy, I feel, during that time.
I think part of it was also trying to decide, do they want to ban the Grumpjaw or leave it open and try and pick it for themselves? That was probably what a lot of that discussion before that ban was.
Absolutely. Well, Vox going to be banned once again in this series, and now we got on to the last few picks. And honestly, G2, they've still got things wide open. With that Glaive, it could be Captain, could be Jungle. There's different routes they can take with this one, but the Gwen going to be the pick for Immortals.
Zio, I think seems to be comfortable on this Gwen. Looked very animated before that pick was taken, so maybe a little bit of discussion or debate going on there, but DNZO saying, this is the Gwen, I want the Gwen, pick this hero for me here, and we'll see if he can make it work.
Absolutely, and now over to the side of G2 Esports. They're currently 2-0 up in this series. They are sitting in a very comfortable position, and they're happy to lock in that Lance once again. Oh, I believe they haven't actually played Lance in this series, but we've seen Lance
once again. Still counts for them. Regular season, they played it 15 times. 4 more games on the Lance than any other hero for G2.
and Adagio going all the way down to the last pick on the A side, and now Immortals just to finish off their draft. What are we expecting here?
What I'm expecting is Hundor to be on that Adagio, taking a very comfortable back foot. He's all about the position. This is very much, again, protect Hundor in this. And with that Lance and with that Glaive there's a lot of CC at their hands.
Yeah.
Immortals, they're going to have a tough time trying to get onto Hundor here.
Yeah, I expect them to try and pick up something that has a bit of utility, again, to try and then protect Dienzio, but they may, again, still try to switch it up, try and get something that's a little bit more aggressive, but their options for what they've looked strong with in the past are fairly limited.
Absolutely, and just 5 seconds for Immortals to lock in their jungle here. Looks like it's going to be Black Feather coming out on this one, so this could be a pretty bloodthirsty game, I think it's fair to say.
There's a lot of potential lockdown. You know, the Black Feather is able to dive onto Adagio, and if you can get that with a gauntlet trapping the Adagio, and there's not much room for escape there. You know, if you're in a gauntlet, you're in a gauntlet. You need to use your reflex block to get out.
2-0 to G2 right now. This could be their chance to finish things off in style for a 3-0, guaranteeing themselves first seed tomorrow. Who do we think is going to be able to take this one?
I'm still with G2.
I think the only way Immortals take this is if they drastically improve their gameplay from the last game, and I just don't see that happening, unfortunately.
All right, so the desk is in favor of G2. I believe the crowd is in favor of G2. Let's see how the cast is feeling as we start off Game 3.
We are feeling great, Munch. Man, G2 Esports, they got to be feeling pretty good right now as well. They are 1 win away from making history for Europe as a region in Vainglory, but they got to be careful not to let that get to them, right?
Right, that's right. I mean, there's a lot to think about. Immortals is still, they're still a strong team. Still got a lot to have to break down, and the second game was much cleaner. We did talk about that from them, but this is Game 3, and reverse sweeps are a thing, people. Can't forget about that.
They absolutely are. Also, some comfort coming across here for Immortals. I believe we have seen Vanes do strong work on that Black Feather before. We've also seen Dienzio do a lot on the Gwen. So if they have a composition like this, maybe they make it happen. Guys, Europe is so close. We're on to the Halcyon Fold for game number 3 of the series, Immortals versus Hammers.
This could be a new historic page.
I mean G2.
We all knew. We all knew. When I said G-Who earlier, that's not exactly what I was going for. But a lot of aggression coming out right away.
Oh, Suijay is not in a good spot. Good damage coming out of Hundor. He's looking for this kill. It is going to be picked up by Keanu Nakoa. First blood, 44 seconds into this game. G2 Esports, they're going to be able to push the jungle as well and really take the game by the reins.
Making a statement. I'm actually confused at why Suijay was even close enough to be in a position to get impaled and then afterburned afterwards. Like, you have a lot of time to see them coming into the bush. You've got your Vanguard available. Just use it a little bit sooner. Have Dienzio there to help you out. But perhaps a little hubris there for the invade potential of G2. Europe perhaps not known very much for early invades, but it is Adagio, it is Lance, it is Glaive. This is a really strong composition. We actually used to see this quite frequently. It's been a little while, but quite a dangerous comp on G2 right now.
On the plus side for Immortals, nowadays, if someone gets an early first blood that early into the game, it's unlikely they're going to go back to base to spend that gold because they want to exert the pressure that enables on the map. As a result, you then have a little window where there's not that itemization difference. So G2 Esports, now they're making their move back to the base. You can see Keanu Nakoa picking up a decent amount of defense. It could become quite difficult for Immortals to take him down in these early game skirmishes.
Yeah, and I want to think a little bit about how this early game is going to be set up, because Vanes is going to be looking to scale. He really wants to get level 8 on Black Feather. That's where the poke comes out. That's where you're able to actually get a lot of damage down. There is a little bit of a healing component coming from G2 with this Adagio, but any significant poke throughout this game is going to be important. But the early game in this Glaive pick is even more important because Immortals cannot get starved out. They cannot get picked. They can only afford to basically die as much as they have right now. That way Black Feather doesn't get pushed too far behind.
It's very exciting to see Dark Potato back on this Glaive pick, something he used to play a lot in previous seasons. He is very effective on it and certainly can push the tempo of these games with lots of ganks early on. We have seen Hundor play a decent amount of this Adagio in the past as well, and he certainly knows how to make it work. So G2 Esports, they're on comfort as well, as much as I mentioned it for Immortals earlier on.
A little bit of a rotational misplay here from a Dark Potato, though. We have to kind of talk on the knife's edge here as they are getting set up for a gank.
Oh, they find the root onto Suijay. Dark Potato wants more, but they stack the stuns. Is it going to be enough? Suijay, one more attack. Hundor finds the kill. G2 Esports kicking things off with a lot of aggressive plays.
I mean, the fact that Vanes went down, I was just, we went in a little there, but probably doesn't want to take that team fight because it is a 2v3 on the map right now, so Vane's just going to back up. But they actually let Blackfeather take the Elder. What I was saying before is with the pressure G2 got, they weren't really tracking the timing on that spawn, so a little bit of a misplay, but they actually ended up going up to lane, and since Vanes had went home to shop, wasn't there to help contest for that gank, and Sujaneris goes down. So Swede, we actually praised him quite a lot yesterday for stepping in and really being the linchpin for that Hammer's defeat. And but today, looking a little bit rough around the edges, perhaps the pressure just going up against a stronger team in the mix-up. So a lot of things to think about.
Dienzio has now picked up his tension bow. It's always fun watching these professional teams. How quickly they get some of these items is just insane. Dienzio is going to be doing crazy damage if he finds the opportunity. But the problem is right now, no opportunities presenting themselves. Immortals just cannot make it work yet. They need to open up the map a little bit more before they can, perhaps.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I like the fact that Immortals is paying a little bit more respect to this glaive pick potential, but this is still kind of dangerous for them to be this far to the left. Impale misses. Dienzio lives to see another day. He does have that skedaddle, which will get him out of any lockdown or root, so it's good for him to have that on Gwen. But Blackfeather just farming here as G2 looks to try to posture for some turret damage, perhaps.
Yeah, G2 moving up now could go for that. Keanu not going to land the root again. Vanes is here to back up Immortals as well. Hundor with the burn damage onto every one of Immortals, though, is very threatening. See them being a little bit cautious about going in for the initiation. Hundor does not have a heal available for himself just yet. Vanes moving forward a little bit. Dark Potato takes some good damage, but G2 Esports is going to play it safe. They're not going to bite off more than they can chew right now as they back up towards their turret.
Yeah, I mean, with the Vanguard potential on Blackfeather going in, we're going to see a lot of insane combos with Suijay really just diving into the backline with Vanes. But Vanes has to be careful. If he misses on points, he's essentially dead every team fight. He has to have that barrier from his second ability in order to stay alive, just because CP Blackfeather, you can't afford to itemize too much defense. All of your damage comes in your poke potential, and you're kind of a melee hero with a long sword, right? So it's one of these instances where if you do dive, if you do go in, you have to make sure you've got that barrier up.
Very big item pickup here for Hundor. He's got his alternating current now. This is one of the biggest power spikes an Adagio has.
And an infusion.
Later. And so I think he's saying, I'm going to double down on this power spike, right? I got the AC. That's massive for me. Why not also get an infusion? If we fight at all, I'm just going to demolish people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great pickup because you don't even actually have to pop it. You can actually sell it if you don't get the pick you want in order to get full value back. So, but they might actually use it here to get a little extra damage. Glaive being in the top bush, I like this setup from G2. It's just another angle of attack, and Immortals, I don't think they know he's there.
Yeah, G2 made this move a while ago, and you see Dienzio, he's like,
checking.
oh, Dark Potato might be down here. He says they definitely don't know. Or they're baiting. Very convincingly. They're baiting me too.
They might. I mean, they're staying kind of close to the bush because they do know it's a safe.
Oh,
here we
Dienzio,
go.
He's knocked back. He doesn't land the skedaddle before the stun. But thankfully for him, he is able to get back. Oh, walks into the root, though. Keanu, Nakoa, and G2 pick up another kill.
They get Fountain out, too.
Yeah, this is really rough for Immortals. Vanes does have some good damage with that Shatter Glass, but there's so much sustain on G2 that trying to pick a fight is very risky. Vanes does get stunned up. That is so much damage coming out. Dark Potato dashes on in. G2 Esports keeping the pressure on. 4 kills to 0. They're looking for a turret as well.
First turret.
Dienzio making his way back in. Can't get a kill, though. Suijay even goes down. They lose more than they perhaps ought to. Immortals on the ropes.
This is a really tough start for Immortals. We were just talking about how clean they needed to play, how careful they needed to play in order for this Blackfeather to scale. He's getting closer and closer to level 8. The extension on that on point allows him to get a lot more poke off in a much safer way. But you can't hang around the turret with Glaive. I mean, if anyone taught us earlier what it's like to misposition against the Glaive, it was Xeno, and Immortals didn't learn. They didn't learn their lesson. They weren't watching that series, and right now they're sticking too close to that area of danger. We often talk about the best teams versus the worst teams is the ability to recognize when danger is in front of you or recognize the opportunity, and Immortals playing a little bit with blinders on right now.
They are indeed, as G2 Esports continues to apply pressure here. Almost 19,000 gold. They are going to be jumping onto Vanes. Dienzio tries to make his way onto the backline. He wants Hundor. That is a lot of damage. Hundor nearly going down. Vanes really wants this one. Finds the kill. Immortals, they've been making beautiful flank plays all series. Maybe not enough of them, but they're certainly doing some good work here. 2 kills picked up against G2.
Yeah, they recognized that they really needed to make this happen. Fans here are getting a little poke on Keanu, but I think they're just probably going to focus on the objective here. But that's what you have to do. If you get behind, you have to be clever. You got to look for something cheeky, a side flank play from Zio there. You saw him actually wait in the bush for an extended period of time, so I like that pressure.
Oh,
Lance with the steal!
Keanu!
Come on,
Beautiful.
Keanu. They just got back a little in the game, man, and they're down 2 in the series. He's like, I don't care. He's like, this is Europe's first series win, baby. We're going all the way. Keanu takes the gold mine. That's just more and more gold separated now between the teams.
I think Keanu is just upset that I haven't talked to him in the same way that I did in Game 1. Right? Like, Game 1, I was all over Keanu. Game 2, he took a backseat a little bit. Game 3, he's stepping up again.
Just, you cannot afford to make this many mistakes, especially when it's one more win to take the series away from you. Immortals, we need to see a little bit more fire from you with the wave pushing. G2 has the option now to clear it. The wave will now bounce back towards Immortals, and they can have dropped priority. They can get vision down. They can shop. So you can see Dienzio playing really safe here. He just can't afford to get out from that second-tier turret.
Immortals really need to turn on that live buff again. They need to refresh it, because G2 Esports is pushing them to the edge here. 1 win away from being that first European Series winner against NA. You know they are hungry for that, Fuji.
They're really hungry for it, but we have to continue to give it over to G2. I actually like their rotation down to get the Sentry there. I actually think Sentries have not perhaps been as much of a kill priority as we would like to see in this tournament this weekend, and perhaps mainly for Europe. But G2's saying, you know what, when we have the lead, we're going to continue to press it, and that's what you got to do. It's not just about creating a gold lead, getting some objectives, and sitting back. It's about extending that gold lead through rotation pressure and stealing away from your enemy jungle.
Do you think that flank play that Immortals made earlier to win their first team fight of the game would work again, depending on if Keanu addresses it properly? Because I feel like Keanu, as much as I'll give him hype, in that fight kind of sat between the 2 extremes. He didn't really back up Dark Potato, he didn't really back up Hundor until it was too late. I feel like if they'd just gone immediately for that different situation, Vanes rooted. He does have that Rose offensive to back up here, though. Dark Potato can't quite get in range for that afterburn. He's now looking for Suijay, does not find him. With Dienzio
Did you
coming
pop the
back
infusion?
in, that's the gauntlet going across. Keanu with a nice Githian wall to buy time. Hundor is very low, though. He gets stunned up a little bit. Here comes the first. He can't get it down. That is huge. Immortals with a turnaround fight. Keanu just going to bail on this one, trying to maybe make some kind of a sneak play around the side, maybe take down Suijay, but it's not going to happen.
Hello,
Keanu,
Dienzio.
man, Immortals, that was a nice fight from them.
Let's talk about how that fight went in their favor. Candy comes out on the Crystal Miner, a big buff of extra damage there for them. Dienzio, the most critical component of this team fight was he blocked the Atlas on the way to Adagio. If he had not done that, they would have lost the team fight. That's the difference, people. That's the difference it takes. If you're going to be a carry in a pro-level game, you have to be blocking these Atlases consistently. There's only one right now, though. It's easy to do that. Once Dark Potato very likely gets his own, it becomes an entirely different game for this Gwen. So you've got to make these plays while you can. Impressive. Immortals not backing down, feeling strong. They had the gauntlet, they had the infusion, they had the block on the Atlas, and they won the team fight.
I love that Hundor is picking up some defense here. I think we've seen in the past couple of fights that he does blow up a little bit too quickly to the burst damage of Dienzio, and Vanes is great at hunting you down and executing you on that Black Feather, so he needs to be self-sustaining. He can't just rely on Keanu.
And let me return a little, well, I may not get a chance to as G2 looks to make a move here, but turret's pretty close by, so not going to be able to take anything too much there. Plus, once again, Immortals had a nice push on the wave, so it's going to force G2 back a little bit. But the point you made earlier, can Keanu respond to these flanks? So what they did in Game 1 after the first successful flank is Keanu just bought a bunch of vision and spread it around the map just to make sure that couldn't happen again. Obviously, a Koshka flank a little different than Gwen, but to be fair, Rose Offensive can't really lock Blackfeather down with your Githian, so I think if that were to happen again, Keanu's really just going to have to focus on stunning up Gwen as much as possible and really making sure, honestly, the big play is looking to really knock the Gauntlet out. If you can get the right angle and push Arden into the wall, keep Gauntlet from landing, that's a win condition for you right there.
Talk to me a little bit about where we are headed in this game, because we're 13 minutes in. Once we actually hit the late game, who has the edge compositionally?
The edge late game actually, it's kind of interesting because while Adagio has a ton of damage late game, it actually turns more into the utility abilities than it does straight damage. A lot of times we focus on things like Scarf and Baron being late game powerhouse picks that just do a ton of damage. It seems almost uncontestable, but in this game it's a bit different. Ace is high, Gauntlet actually landing and stunning, enough poke damage coming out for the burst from Gwen to matter from Blackfeather. That's the win condition. For Adagio, it's all about keeping him safe and making sure he can do consistent damage throughout the team fight. And once again, utility, Glaive Afterburns, Githian Walls.
All right, Immortals, they're feeling more confident than they had earlier on in the game, starting to move up. Get some good poke damage down, actually, onto G2 Esports. Immortals are about 3,000 gold in deficit of G2, but that does not mean they're scared here. They certainly feel very strong, maybe hitting a bit of a power spike in their composition.
They really need to clear this scout trap out that's sitting underneath where their middle treant spawns. This is giving a lot of information over to G2. Rotational information. You can see, like, so they know that they're not there. We see Gwen appear in lane. Vanes is pretty far away making moves to this tri-bush, so it should be a secure from G2.
Immortals, they nearly get that stolen away. Great Gauntlet coming through. Hundor has to pop that reflex block, walk on out of there. Keanu cannot do the same, taking so much damage. It is going to likely, just barely be a kill from Immortals, and they're looking for more. Hundor, the main target. He's so close to going down. He does fall. Dark Potato wants to find some kind of turnaround, but he is very low, and Vanes is on the hunt. Dark Potato, one more attack would do it. He's got to be careful of Dienzio, though. The Crystal Sentry nearly takes him down, but Immortals find the ace. They do not want to be Fuji, the first team to fall against Europe from North America. They're still in this game, and they're going to get the Kraken.
And the Gauntlet started everything off. G2 with the clean secure of the gold mine had the opportunity to just leave there. Even if Keanu gets caught and he goes down, just back up, get out of there. You've got Afterburn, use it to escape. G2 hangs around. They think perhaps their lead is enough to be able to do the damage necessary. Sentry alive. It was almost enough, but now with Kraken on the board and Immortals really needs this Kraken to push, they could easily get 2 turrets here.
Really, Immortals, I mean, they don't frequently get themselves that Kraken. You see they're 0.29 captures per match. That's not a tremendous amount, but what can they do with it? You know, how many turrets are they going to push here? How can they utilize this, leverage it to make the game go in their favor?
It's really, 2 turrets is definitely the number they can go for here. I do think they should look for some more poke. Vane needs to get up there. Vane needs to keep pushing this poke out, forcing heals down on the allies of Hundor here, so he can't use it as much for damage. Once again, you're just kind of seeing Zio go in and poke around. This is what they want to do, a safe Kraken push. Getting aced here is devastating for Immortals. Really devastating for G2, but that pressure just isn't there. They're going to let Kraken look to finish this turret. They might have left a little too early here, though, Jackson. Kraken going to probably be taken down before this turret falls. One more hit.
Just barely, yeah. G2 mid-swing.
Kraken went to raise the roof. If she would have just punched it, that would have been it.
All right, G2 Esports, though, managed to mitigate the damage that did. They only lose 1 turret. They don't lose any kills, and they get a decent amount of gold for killing Kraken. So actually, that was not that bad for them. The real question is, what happens on the map during this downtime, right? This is when you really start to establish vision. You have a lot of leeway to make perhaps slightly more aggressive plays than you otherwise would, because if you fail, Kraken doesn't go. Right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and this is what you want to do. Right now, it's just all about making sure you don't get picked. There's not a lot of objectives to take on the map other than turrets, and the turrets now, tier 2s, both still available. You want to just make sure you keep the vision on the map, make sure you're counting down till the next Kraken respawn. I gotta say, though, Immortals only getting the tier 1 turret with the Kraken, that's a major loss. You never want to take Kraken if it's only going to net you a turret you most likely could have killed without it.
All right, Immortals moving forwards, posturing a little bit aggressively here against G2 Esports. You can tell they're not feeling quite as confident as they were earlier on. They definitely want to play it safe. Immortals on the precipice of turning this game around. desperately need
Looking for a gauntlet here.
Yeah, that's going to be going down. Keanu Nakoa is stunned up, but he's just going to back away with that roll. Dienzio is going to fish with the aces high. He's looking for Keanu, but Keanu does manage to back off pretty far here. Vanes wants to keep chasing, but he doesn't have a gap closer that would safely get him into the thick of things here. Immortals might still go for more, though, as Keanu actually spent some time looking towards the Trient. Undor going to pick that one up. Immortals, they have a lot of map pressure right now. I feel like G2 might want to concede here, reset Keanu's health before Kraken spawns.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big cooldown burn there by Sui Generis with Vanes being so far away. And the thing is, if you're going to be chasing, something to point out here, well, actually, if they saw Keanu go back, they may look for pressure. Kraken's on the map. But what I was going to say is if you're going to be chasing a team, especially with Adagio that can heal and slow, curious why Vanes did not prioritize maxing his Faint of Heart here, simply just because it does cut that down on the Rose Trail to speed up as well because your CP is much faster. So interesting ability choice usage there. Not the biggest fan, but we'll see if the extra Rose offensive being available will actually make the difference later in this game. But at 19 minutes, Immortals G2, these are some of the longest games consistently we've had all weekend.
Yeah, very interesting stuff from these teams. G2 Esports, they are still about 4,000 gold in the lead. The problem is that it's starting to mean less and less as we progress here, and Dienzio is really the carry that's been able to consistently get the damage down. Hundor has had a very tough time staying safe in the fights. He's already itemized 2 defense items. What more can you really do to make that happen for Hundor?
I mean, Hundor right now being ahead in farm by quite a large amount over Dienzio has allowed him to finish. I mean, he's almost full build. If he actually turns this into a metal jacket, he will be. Journey boots, by the way, a big power spike for Adagio because Adagio's mobility is fairly weak. It allows you to continue to chase the targets that are burning, get the damage down with your empowerment. But Immortals right now just looking to posture. With Kraken on the map, you can't really afford to let the team get too much pressure here. Keanu does miss his combat roll.
Yeah, and going in like that, taking so much damage does mean that Immortals wants to force the fight. Keanu takes so much damage. Vanes! What are you doing? He gets annihilated. Dark Potato and Hundor, they want more. Dienzio with a nice block on that afterburn. Is he going to be able to kite back? He's done some serious damage to Dark Potato. Crystal Sentry, the new target. Fountain forced to pop on G2. Suijay and Dienzio could look to re-engage, at least onto Dark Potato. He is very low, but they do not want to go for it. G2 backing away. Can they find Kraken?
I believe they can. I mean, at this point in the 3v2, they can just bait out Suijay.
They just want Suijay, though. That's not going to land the stun. A root there is going to connect. Hundor finds the kill. It's just Dienzio 1v3. He needs to make a hero play on the Kraken, or he needs to play safe. Don't sit in the middle, though.
I feel like the scout trap that was just next to that tri-bush actually gave Suijay a little bit of unnecessary confidence. He actually had flares in his inventory when he went down, so he could have flared out the bush. Didn't get caught. You can't go down like this late into the game. These Kraken pushes are going to be devastating. Kraken just continues to get stronger and stronger and harder to kill. That was very dangerous play, though, by Vanes. We talk. I feel like this is a thematic conversation we've had right now, but Blackfeather, squishy on the CP path. If you're not hitting your on points and staying safe, you're going to die almost instantly. Adagio very effective at taking this Blackfeather down once the burn gets on him. So Hundor, he's full build, and he's looking to take this game and take this series here with this potential Kraken push. At least 2 turrets are going to go down.
All right, well, on average, G2 hasn't quite been able to pull that one off, but they're looking to do it here. Keanu has taken a decent amount of poke, but Kraken's still very healthy. Hundor, he's moving around below, trying to edge into position where he can hit the turret. Doesn't have the longest attack range. Oh, double root. That could be big. Dienzio stunned up against the wall. Hundor, he wants the damage. Moving on under, but he does get stunned up. The verse, will it connect?
Get him!
Yet again, he gets shut down during that one. That is going to be a kill coming out as Dienzio gets away on 44 health. Keanu Nakoa cannot escape. G2, they get aced, but they do find 2 turrets with that Kraken push.
Oh, G2, yes, you get your turrets, but you also get aced, and you give Kraken gold over. This is a big swing back over to Immortals. You're at a 6,000 gold lead, and you're just closing it because of mistakes. Kraken pushing is so important to do it efficiently effective. They bit off more than they can chew. Suijay with a great gauntlet keeps Dienzio alive. you can play the patient game. It's 20+ minutes. You don't have to dive. You don't have to go for the hard finish. G2 just a little ahead of themselves there.
You know, if Hundor had been able to get off any of these verses right before he died, you would have seen that like crazy turnaround that sometimes happens. But really, he hasn't had that opportunity yet. Good focus fire out of Immortals. Now, there is still, of course, this gold advantage on G2. And there is still a turret advantage there. But the fights that they've been winning have really been about the mistakes that Immortals are making. The mispositioning, right? If Immortals tighten up their game, how could they come back here?
I definitely think Immortals needs to get a quick and clean kill on Adagio. This means that Blackfeather has to engage correctly with his on point, and he can't get chunked out. Sweetjade cannot have to use his fountain in the first 2 seconds of the fight because Vayne's missed positions. They need to be able to keep this up as long as possible because they don't have the sustain.
Oh, the boots popped. You can see G2 wants this one. They do get a lot of crowd control onto Dienzio. He's trying to cut in. Hundor, he goes for verse way earlier this fight, finds the damage. He's looking for Dienzio. Great stun! Keanu with the 3-man Githian wall. Veins cannot execute Hundor. Sweetjade is not going to get away with 50-second respawn timers on Immortals right now. I do not know if they can defend a push here. Fuji, Europe, they have victory in their sights in London, in the home host region. G2 Esports are looking to be that historical team to take down North America. And with the respawn timers again, as I said, very long for Immortals, they are going to do it. G2 Esports, what a match, 3-0 over Immortals.
The first team ever in European history in Vainglory to take a series off a North American team. Records are being broken, Action Jackson, at this event. Whew, what an exciting series, a 3-0, perhaps an expected outcome, but nonetheless, congratulations G2. Way to just prove everyone that you have what it takes.
This is a big moment for Europe. They've got a lot ahead of them, though, with Fnatic up later against Team Solomid, and G2, of course, playing in the semis tomorrow. I have to admit, G2 looked very strong, but at times, there were moments where they overcommitted. They've got to tighten up their game as well heading into tomorrow, I imagine. Immortals, you got to give them props for coming in and doing as well as they did. Sweetjade stepping up.